Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we're discussing a monster launched in 2002 and made through about 2010. This is the Breitling for Bentley Motors. So Breitling for Bentley ran from 2002 through the end of 2021. It was a collaboration between Bentley of Britain, which I love uniquely, and Breitling of Solothurn in Switzerland. They're out of Grenchen, and it really worked out quite well, partly because Breitling watches are kind of big, brash, and in your face, and Bentley is anything but subtle, so you had this idea of being slightly brutal, but also upscale. A good match. It worked out well, and this is probably one of the best fusions of their design philosophies. So the motors right here is built in what would traditionally be considered a big navitimer format. So historically, there were big navitimers between 48 and 49 millimeters, and so those have lent their case and their differentially geared calculator bezel to the Breitling for Bentley Motors. So 48.7 millimeters in diameter in steel, 15.1 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 54 millimeters with a 24 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist. I've always thought these watches, with few exceptions, are cool, but you got to have the wrist for them. And I think that if you look at this on my wrist, it's probably a little bit too big. Maybe not comically oversized, but I do think you need a wrist of 17 centimeters circumference or larger to really wear this well. So that's my opinion. That said, it does sit lower than you would expect. So in terms of cuffs, if you've got a big wrist that can handle this watch, you've probably got a big cuff that can slide up and over the watch. Now the bracelet is very similar to the Pilot, but it's actually called the Speed bracelet. Now this was fit exclusively to Breitling for Bentley watches. You can see it has a diagonal orientation of the links, small center links, we have larger shoulder links, and then there's a little bit of a taper down from the end link towards the clasp. You can see removable links here are fixed by screws. The clasp is a single fold deployant, and that it has a clamshell lock. You can also see that if in time the clamshell wears down, it's fixed by screws so it can be removed and replaced during service. There are 4 pairs of divots inside the clasp, so you can use a strap tool to change the anchoring point of the bracelet to fine-tune the fit without actually adding or removing any of the links. Rolling around, you can see that the case itself actually works with your wrist. You can see how the lugs curve down. Everything is high polish, and well, that makes sense for Breitling. Breitling is a company that during this period was all about visibility, attitude, aviation associations, yes, but also very much automotive ones as well with the Breitling for Bentley series. And again, there being no compact Bentley, there really is no compact Breitling for Bentley. We do, however, get a lot of useful features such as a screw-down crown, 100-meter water resistance. I talked about a differentially geared calculator bezel, and that's what this little cover is here. People think this is a helium escape valve. It's not. It's the cover to the differential gearing. If you look at the bezel, you can see that it features knurling reminiscent of what you'll find in Bentleys, past and present. And then the bezel is fixed in place using these little screws. That's called a captive bezel, and it's a more durable assembly method than, say, a Tag, Rolex, or Omega snap-on, snap-off bezel. This can't be snapped off inadvertently. Now, the differentially geared. Okay, let's watch this. Watch my fingernail, the tip of my fingernail, relative to the 1 as I turn this bezel. You'll see that the 1 slowly moves, my hand is sliding there, but the 1 slowly moves away from my finger because the bezel moves more slowly than the calculator scale. So that's what the differential does. It allows for proper calibration and progressive action between the logarithmic scale and the different calibrations on the outer and inner scale. So the way this works is essentially the opposite of a standard navitimer bezel. So for example, what would normally happen if I were to use a navitimer bezel is if I wanted to divide 9 by 3, I would put the 9 on the outer scale over 3 on the inner scale, and then go to the index at 1. Now, you can see here, I'm going to take 9 to 1, and if I want to know what 9 divided by 3 now is, it works backwards. So I put the 9 over the index, which is 1 with the red arrow, and then I take a look at 3, and well, there you go. 9 divided by 3 is 3, just like that. Okay, so now, let's say I want to multiply. Say I want to multiply 5 by 3. Okay, I put 5 over 3, Now I go to the scale. You can see right over the 1 and the red arrow, 1.5. So 5 times 3, you got to do the decimals mentally, is 15. Okay, easy to do. Easy to see, easy to understand, and quick to learn. The watch does have lume. We'll take a look at that now. And one of the quirks of this watch is that the chronograph scales, minutes as well as hours, they do actually have luminescence. Now you'll note it is a 6-hour register, running seconds as well as hours. Running seconds is lumed, hours is lumed, and then hours and minutes at center are lumed. You'll also note that the chronograph is running at double speed. This is a complication module that Breitling developed itself that allows you to more easily read fractions of seconds. This is accurate to 1/8 of a second as a chronograph. And so with a 8 beat per second movement and a chronograph that moves at double the speed, it spreads that second over a larger arc to make reading the fractions easier. The watch does have applique indices for a nice upscale look, which I adore, and it's a glossy black lacquered dial. Now, if you take a quick look, you can see we have a little date window there. Let me demonstrate two of the features of this caliber 25B movement. One is hacking seconds. Just make sure we're not in the date change danger zone there. We weren't. We also have a quick set date mechanism, so you can rapidly cycle the date. And I don't know how well you can see it, but the date is a silver white disc with dark burgundy numerals, just as we have that red printing at the center that says 30-second chronograph. Okay, so the movement 25B, it's the Breitling 30-second chronograph module on top of an ETA 2892A2. You can see the case back definition on this one isn't as sharp as it used to be, so this is one to wear. This is not a museum piece, this is a daily driver, which seems apropos for a Bentley watch. The 2892 is an automatic winder with bidirectional winding action, a 4 Hz beat rate, and it has a 42-hour power reserve as well as the quick set and the hacking functions we saw previously. If you love this watch, you should also know it's quite accurate. Adjusted in 5 positions, it is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer, and just to repeat, being 100-meter water resistant and full bracelet, you can absolutely take it swimming. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.